This is Professor Robert Fletcher, and I hope to address the history of a company called ProVision Operation System. In light of the one-sided news released by the SEC regarding the ProVision matter concerning myself, Robert Thomas Fletcher, I want to set the twisted facts straight. While it is true that I did reach a civil settlement in the matter, there were no criminal charges filed against me. To my disgust, there were plenty of allegations and nasty name-calling, and later I found that these allegations are the same kind of outlandish claims that are their typical bully tactics they use on hundreds of people every year. The government has amazing power to make anyone sound like a criminal because they can scandalize anyone, drag them through years of court battles, seize your funds, and splash lies across the media, not allowing their target to take a breath. The SEC and government tactics are worse than bullying people. They know how to destroy your life and run you over to get to their next unfortunate victim. In my case, I had the hard choice of fighting the government at great personal and financial cost or handing over $5 million plus fees and walking away a free man with what was left of my personal integrity. While I wanted to fight, my closest legal advisor insisted that it was better to live to fight another day, so we agreed to the cash settlement. What happened after a mutual settlement agreement is an absolute insult upon injury, as the final court settlement released to the paper listed nothing good about the company or me, but scandalized and maligned me after the fact. The SEC posted the settlement agreement, which did not bother to highlight the $5 million I walked away from, but took every opportunity to destroy me by purposefully retelling the story in the very worst slander I could have imagined. How could these people do this to a person or a company that had been a booming success in profitability, growth, and was helping hundreds of people improve their lives? Such notices stay on the internet for decades, so my name, Robert Thomas Fletcher, is constantly harmed. There are numerous elements left out of the SEC's lopsided description of what was a rapidly growing business success. One of the key projects was a humate ranch. Humate is a natural substance that enhances soil fertility, structure, and water-holding capacity. It's rich in humic substances like humians, humic acids, and fulvic acids, which help create healthier and more productive plants. Humate can be used in health enhancement products, so we saw many ways to turn this commodity by supplying very profitable market opportunities. This resource was valuable, and a commodity with real resale value. Because the contract to resell the humate was not ownership, the SEC argued that ProVision's claims were not sufficient. ProVision did not own the ranch. The humate ranch was a subsidiary under contract with ProVision, with a huge supply of a valuable agricultural commodity. To be fair, ProVision was a success training company, not a commodity broker. The training program offered by Robert Fletcher and ProVision Operation System soon began to actively acquire properties, rights, and assets that were in various stages of acquisition. But one of the best features was the ability of joint partners to share and participate in the program. Fees collected were for training and also used to create large returns. Again, to be fair, the rapid growth of ProVision had more than a few imperfections and growth challenges that were grossly misrepresented by the malicious legal system, who knows that they have the free ability to vilify and smear even good people. However, with the backing of the courts, the SEC lawyers know that they can destroy the reputation of those that come under their purview. In fact, the SEC and other government agencies vilify their targets first and always twist the facts in the most unfavorable and scandalous way possible. Then they send their twisted story to cooperating news outlets that feels like a knife to the heart of any growing organization. In too many cases, many good businesses and people have been destroyed by these hyperventilated and salacious accusations long before the court date is set. ProVision Operation System was actually formed in Las Vegas, with 3 people that grew to 30 people paying $500 each for success training classes. 30 students returned for more training, bringing others to follow. The program also allowed our partners to share the wealth in order to net large returns. With explosive growth, leaders became teachers, and crowds flocked to the training events. We must ask how any training or success system is a concern for the SEC, but believe me, they always find some way to turn your best efforts into a heinous violation of some law you have never heard about. The very nature of ProVision's and Robert Thomas Fletcher's success training would naturally be more than training people to succeed. Projects of all types were considered, and the best were adopted by our leadership teams. ProVision and our partners needed to put their earnings into ventures that allowed our partners to share in the performance of owning property, good business ventures like the Humit Ranch, real estate, and even a yacht club for the wealthy to enjoy. In some cases, the ability to buy raw land and project the development of housing units may be high speculation for some, but frankly, what projected real estate development doesn't paint the big picture of what the project will accomplish in the future. Such real estate developments, if not abruptly condemned by the legal system, are often multi-million-dollar opportunities. The Humite Ranch had an agreement to purchase 137 million tons of humate, which was turned into fulvic acid, which can be used as a health product. The return on our purchase was estimated at 10 times our purchase price. As an astute businessman, I realized that we had a huge resources for a huge market at huge profits. We had a huge supply of this product under contract, and the profit from this deal would drive the stock value even higher than we might have imagined. The unfair and premature intrusion of the SEC caused ProVision Operation System, and me, Robert Thomas Fletcher, to potentially lose hundreds of millions of dollars because we estimated the fulvic acid total market value to be over $1 billion. I guess you can now understand that when I say insult on top of injury is no exaggeration. ProVision was soon teeming with excited entrepreneurs bringing projects in for consideration, testing ideas to see if members wanted to participate, and making early speculative projections of what the projects could accomplish. Nearly any business venture can be disrupted partway through development by governmental intrusion. If a real estate project was pounced upon in the fundraising stage, it would be obviously underfunded, may have contracts pending, and plans yet to be accomplished. Every great project is literally a running failure until it reaches critical mass when the profits roll in. This early vulnerability means that any company that is reviewed by the SEC may be called a fraud. ProVision was a tremendous success story with hundreds of excited students and entrepreneurs working together to build an amazing success business that included and rewarded those who participated. Even the best-funded companies must raise money from partners who eagerly offer their time, money, and support in the hope of expected great profits. ProVision didn't follow the normal flight path of such companies. Stock was a later inclusion, after the business had grown beyond a few hundred people. But the stock first offered for less than 1 cent quickly grew to over 50 cents. It all started with a fellow by the name of Gifford Maybe, who we used to help organize a penny stock program for ProVision Operation System. Gifford's past problems brought attention to ProVision, and the SEC asked the ProVision staff to supply false reports about Gifford to railroad him. When we refused, the SEC came after us to teach us a hard lesson. During the early development stage, the SEC can step in with a slew of regulations that would choke a whale. Very few companies can endure a multi-year-long battle with the SEC that has an unlimited budget and sees such opportunities as a way to collect huge fines if they drop the charges. This seems like a form of a protection racket to those who are bullied by a government seeking to justify its existence and collect fines. For those that are concerned that my view of ProVision as a growing success differs greatly from the twisted story of what I believed was a huge concession to hand over $5 million to settle the matter, please understand that I lived through this nightmare. And the real story isn't found in the SEC twisted and malicious report. Honestly, I was and still am very proud of what we accomplished in record time. By the way, ProVision's penny stock grew from less than a penny to 50 cents, which would have been a $20 million valuation. But meteoric growth like that isn't always neat and pretty. Here is a series of contemporary documents that show that ProVision shares grew by a whopping 1,900%, and shows that ProVision Operation System had ongoing deals in real estate, seminars, pre-foreclosed homes, and land development. We had teams working hard on these projects, contracts in process, and money in the bank. We were growing fast in the first 3 years, and the future looked bright. At least until the vultures showed up looking for their next meal. I suppose that we could have gone through the hassles of multi-year compliance deadlines, hired a team of attorneys and accountants, and waited for years to grow the company. Can you even imagine how many companies failed just getting through the gauntlet of compliance, filings, and early costs that we call the burn rate, as cash is not used for growth but an endless parade of fees? I hope to tell more of the ProVision story going forward, but right now I need to set the record straight. Starting a company from zero is hard, very hard. No one maps out the path for you because you have to invent the plan as you grow. I didn't think about contracting with a humate farm that had great earning potential when we started. I wanted to inspire people to learn the fundamentals of success and develop their own path to real wealth. Dealing with the SEC is like an ugly, nasty, hateful divorce. No matter how you may have tried to make the marriage work, paid your bills, or supported your children, the now vicious spouse uses every moment of the marriage to make you sound like the most horrible person in the world. They will lie, twist the story, defame, accuse, and loudly bring out your every flaw or imagined discretion. The best marriage can turn into your worst nightmare. Friends, I am proud, actually, quite proud of the success of ProVision. I gave millions to walk away from the fight, and I thought that would settle the matter as I moved on with my life. The final, unexpected insult was the vilifying and twisted story that the SEC put out after we had agreed to a friendly and final settlement. I believe that it is not what it takes to knock you down, but what it takes to keep you down. None of us will go through life unscathed. Bad things happen, and some of those bad things are extraordinarily unfair. I hope that knowing how things work in a hostile government system, you will now understand that fighting against an unfair attack is something to appreciate because this happens far too often in the business world. I think that it's time to move on and stand tall, and I would appreciate your support as I wish to spend the remainder of my life helping people find their success in life. If you have a social media account, share this message where you can. Let's overcome the evil with good and do good wherever we can. Thank you for listening.